Okay, what?
Welcome, everybody. If you haven't already, if you could put your first and last name in the organization you are here, that would be really great for us to be able to understand. And as you put things in the chat, we can actually understand who is who is uh, who is asking the questions or making the comments. So thank you so much. All right, we're past the top of the hour. So I wanted to begin by, first of all, welcoming all of you to this particular first session in track two. Now that the afternoon sessions can be a little complicated. We've had a number of people who've shown up here who were supposed to be in other tracks. So we'll redirect them to the other tracks. But today is this session is in track two, and it's all talking about the lay leadership development program that we are working to try to initiate this year as part of both helping each of the temples and churches um, begin to identify and nurture leaders within their temples, but to identify individuals who we can look to be that pipeline for leadership sustainability. So let me get over here. Oh my goodness. Can't seems to control my thing here. So let's go with some rules, some of the agendas. So I'd like to just start with some house rules. We'll do a little bit of polling because I'd like to figure out who's here in the room. It's a simple poll that Marissa will pull up in a minute. I wanted to talk a little. We'll introduce the presenters. We'll have a discussion on the purpose of this lay leadership development program. And what the
Is Steve breaking up for anyone else?
Yeah, I think so. So
Oh,
I'm going to cut my video for now, and hopefully that will solve the issue. We're going to have a brief presentation of LEAP because LEAP is the collaborating entity that's been going to support this program. Both of their history and the programs that they've offered over their 43-year history of doing leadership development programs. And we're going to talk more specifically about this lay leadership development program in the collaboration between LEAP and BCA. We'll go into a Q&A session. And then in summary, I have a Google form to have all of you both take with you, but also to fill out if you are individually interested in this program for yourself or for people that you know in your temple and church or your organization. So some house rules. As I asked, please, if you could do first, last name, and the church organization you're with. That would help us figure out who's here. To mute yourself, and if possible, keep your camera on because I'd like to see who's out there. Not that I've just shut off my screen because of the internet instability that I have, but that would really help. And as Marissa said, to really use the chat for questions or comments during the presentation. And Marissa, if you could interrupt me or our LEAP folks if you see something that's really relevant in the things that we're talking about. So thank you for doing that. So just some introductions. As you know, I'm Steve Terasaki, and I am currently for the next 7 days the president of the BCA. Next Saturday, I turn the gavel over to my colleague Glenn Inanaga from the Orange County Buddhist Church. I'm actually professionally executive leadership coach. And so I work a lot with LEAP I'm part of their stable of coaches that work with them on their development program, leadership development programs, both in the corporate sector but also nonprofit, academic sectors. So it's been a really wonderful relationship, and it's all because of meeting Linda Akutagawa at a leadership workshop here in San Francisco at one point. We saw each other across the room, and she was up on stage, and I said, "Oh, I got to meet that lady." And she saw me in the audience. She goes, "I need to meet that guy." And it's been a wonderful relationship partnership since then. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Linda to do some self-introductions of her and a little bit about Leap, and then she'll follow with introducing Alex Sena.
Okay, great. Alex, could you perhaps share your slides and then that way then we'll just stay on one set of slides.
I have a little bit before I'm going to move to
Okay.
Alex's slides though.
Oh, okay, because I have my introduction slides on the same slides that the deck that he
Oh,
has.
you do? Okay.
Yeah, sorry
I'll
about
stop
that.
share.
I just thought it might just make it visually easier to follow along in terms of talking
Okay.
about leaps. So hi, everyone. So, as I was introduced, my name is Linda Akutagawa. So, my affiliation is with LEAP. However, I will share that I also have another affiliation. I am one of those that attends occasionally, usually on special occasions, Eitaikyo or like New Year's Day or something like that. But my affiliation or my family's affiliation is with the LA Betsuin, as it's, I guess, more formally known. I call it Nishonganji, also known as the LA Honpa Honganji Buddhist Temple as well, too. That's where I write out my checks, too, when I'm asked to make donations. So, um,
Thank you for your donations.
yes, yes. So I wanted to at least make that connection. So when Steve first brought up this idea, I was super excited, obviously, because it for one of those rare moments, it gives me a chance to meld another part of my identity in my life with my professional life as well, too. So thank you, Steve, for this opportunity. I know my team is equally as excited to be able to do something like this if it works out. So the organization that I run, I've been affiliated with the organization for quite some time. That's also how I met Shar as well, too. LEAP, which stands for Leadership Education for Asian Pacifics. We are an organization that is over 40 years old. We're nearly 45 years old. Founded in 1982. Our mission is to achieve full participation and equality for Asian and Pacific Islanders through leadership empowerment and policy. And our vision is diverse leaders shaping communities for the benefit of all. We do have a leadership set of leadership values and philosophy that guides our work as well too, which is based in integrity, community, and impact. And our philosophy, our leadership philosophy, is keep your values, develop new skills. The idea that we don't have to change or discard our values to be effective as leaders. What we can do is develop the skills and expand and add to our skill sets to become effective leaders while still being authentic to who we are. Our main founding is really to serve Asian and Pacific Islander communities, as you can see here too. But we also have found that a lot of the work that we do has relevance and interest to diverse communities beyond just Asian and Pacific Islander communities. And I think just this idea of being able to remain authentic to who you are and also develop new skills is something that I think is resonant with a broad group of people. Next slide, Alex. So Steve asked me to also talk briefly about the kind of programs. And before I talk about the specific programs, I wanted to also talk a little bit about our leadership framework that we have at LEAP. And so you'll see at the top, we start first with focus on the individual and then expanding out to empowering the self, yourself, empowering others, and then transforming communities. So as you look to see the way our holistic approach to leadership development is self, others, and communities. Within that, the individual participant, our strategic approach to our programming is through curriculum. So we do have a curriculum that we feel is unique in the sense that because our audience is mainly Asian and Pacific Islanders, it is offered through this Asian and Pacific Islander cultural lens. Our programming is open to all. However, we do have the roots in our Asian and Pacific Islander community. So there's this cultural lens through which we're presenting leadership. And it gives us a unique kind of perspective versus just a generic, broader leadership development. We also are rooted in community as is our values. Building community. So, with all of our participants, what we want to help folks do is to also not just make them feel like they're just an individual, out on their own, but that as they go through our programs, they also become part of a larger community of other folks who are looking to develop their leadership skills and to do good in this, in this world and building that community. And lastly, it's through the use of also complementing our curriculum is also our coaching. As Steve had mentioned, professionally, he's one of our coaches. We have a large roster of other coaches as well too that work with us to help provide that individual kind of work with the individual participants to help them really connect our curriculum to the work that they're looking to do as they develop as leaders. Next slide, Alex. So I want to just briefly just share with you just oh, one more back. So I want to just briefly share with you just the programs that we offer at LEAP. And we have we use what we call a 3x3 model. So we do programming across for-profit, nonprofit, and higher education. The programming that we would be looking to enact with BCA would fall under our nonprofit pillar. And then we also work with across life stages rising talent, mid-career talent, and established talent. So you could see that the kind of programming that we offer, we have for rising talent, which mostly is college students. We have our Leap Emerge Fellowship, which is really meant to develop young rising talent for potential roles in for-profit, nonprofit, and higher education sectors. We have programming that is meant to really address the needs of those in mid-career. So for our for-profit, we have a program called Pathways. For our nonprofit, we have a program called Impact. And for our higher education, we have a program called Leap Advance that spans both mid-career and more established career professionals. And then for the for-profit and nonprofit, more established leaders, we have our Leap Exceed and Leap Engage. And then separate from what are these programs that are more cohort-based, integrated, what I call high impact, high engagement programs. We also do other add-on programs, including workshops, simulation, and we have coaching. We have also other different kinds of offerings to complement what we do. And I'll stop here in terms of just briefly introducing LEAP, and I'm going to turn this over back to Steve.
Thank you. So I'm gonna go share my slide deck again and talk a little bit about the purpose and the reason why this is so important for BCA at this point in our history and our trajectory about thinking about our future. Really, we've all recognized that all of us in all of our temples and churches and at the national level are sorely in need of a formal way to identify and nurture new leaders to step forward. Find those people who we can say, please step forward and help us in many of the things that have to happen at the local temple level. The opportunity to put a structured leadership development program is really a result of actually the Dharma Forward campaign. Because for the first time, we actually now have, from the donations received through Dharma Forward, significant resources that we can use to work with a company like Leap and bring to our Sangha the ability to identify, nurture, and provide the leadership development skills that are going to be so important for each of us in our local temples and churches, but also that can then rise into district level leadership, to rise into the BCA at the national level through committees, through becoming directors at large, through participating at the national board, and eventually to become part of the executive committee of the BCA. So there's a number of reasons that are really important for us to begin to think about the necessity and not just leave it ad hoc, not just leave it by happenstance that somebody steps forward and says, I really want to participate, but really to go out and seek and nurture and use a program like what Linda talked about in what LEAP can provide to us in the BCA Sanghas. The interesting part about the this program, and let me talk about the issue that in our vision and strategic planning initiative that we've been working on, it really is a strategic priority in our organizational development initiative to develop lay leadership at all levels in the organization. So that's a strategy, but what we're talking about is actually execution now. And this program is part of that execution of being able to fulfill that particular strategic initiative in our vision and strategic plan. So why? As I said, we really need for our future sustainability a pipeline of new leaders. And leadership skills require more than just following existing behaviors or patterns of engagement, at the local temple level. It really needs a more formal approach to building those skills in order to really have those individuals take positions of leadership. And the other piece of it is as we broaden who are a part of our sanghas, we are no longer just Japanese American in our congregations and our sanghas in who we look to our leadership for. We've become much broader in our representation, but so much of what it happens in our temples and churches is still very much culturally JA centric. We really need a program whereby individuals who don't have that ethnic cultural connection can begin to understand the cultural sensitivities of what it means to be involved in a BCA temple or church. Not that won't change over time, but at this point in time, we need to have people who are coming and wanting to take leadership in our temples and churches to also understand kind of some of the patterns of behavior and why are those patterns of behavior the thing that we all have to deal with. And so much of it, that's a cultural lens through which we need to look at ourselves. And so having LEAP have that ability to be able to look at ourselves and to offer that understanding, both for our JA, ethnic JA folks, but also for those that are not JA at all, to be able to understand the cultural sensitivities that are required to deal with communication strategies, to deal with decision making, to deal with the relationship building that needs to happen within our temples and churches that are so important as part of our bringing new leaders into the organization. I've seen where people that are not necessarily JA come in with great ideas and lots of energy, and they flame out because they hit the brick wall, because they don't understand what it really took to make change happen within our temples and churches. And so part of this program is to really confront those issues too, because we as an organization who are becoming so much more diverse, we have the idea that we have a big tent. We want to encourage people from all different ethnicities to come and join us as part of becoming part of what is wonderful of School of Buddhism. So That's part of the other reason that this is such an important time in BCA's history, because we are transitioning from that JA kind of bastion of JA culture and history to something broader, something much more diverse. We need to be inclusive, but we also need everyone to feel like they belong. So that's part of the why this is so important. So this is some of this. I was going to put this is Linda's part here. So I wanted to just say that who are the people that we're really looking for? So I put this into there's an article that I wrote for the Wheel of Dharma for January, right? You've read my article in January. So are you or do you know people in your temple who are seeking to be better communicators? So are you troubled when you know people who are troubled with dealing with difficult conversations? And do you know people in your temple or church who are struggle with decision making, delegating, and elevating their emotional intelligence? These are all really important skill sets that need to be part of that leadership development program in order for us to successfully bring new people in to take charge and to become part of what it will make each of our temples vibrant and strong. So if you see individuals in your church or temple have these issues, these are the perfect individuals who can be part of this program. And so the benefits are immense, and it's not just within our temples and churches. The program allows these skills to expand beyond our religious kind of organization. It becomes part of who they are. They apply those skill sets broader to their career, to their family, to other community organizations which they participate. And it's a phenomenal way for BCA to begin to create value for individuals throughout our sanghas, but also to be the kind of the catalyst for generating that level of skill sets that can ultimately come back and benefit BCA itself. The program, as I said, is really a result of the resources we now have through the success of the Dharma Forward campaign. There is no charge to the individual. These kinds of leadership development programs can be very expensive if you pay for them individually. But because of the success of Dharma Forward, we now have the ability to write I've written the grant application, and SAR is sitting on a final approval for that. But SAR's gauntlet to me is, do we have the people that we can develop a cohort of at least a dozen individuals who can spend 4 to 5 months in this program of developing leadership skills. So between Dharma Forward, the monies from the Dharma Forward campaign, monies from the Bloomquist education fund that is controlled by the executive committee of the BCA, and a small amount from the sponsoring temple or church. Because part of the program is really to have the individual do a project that ultimately they bring back to your organization to benefit and to make some level of change happening in your temple or church. So whether it be an analysis of your market kind of brand within the community, whether that's evaluating new CRM, customer relationship management software that you can implement to better capture who and your donor base that exists in your temple. It could be setting up partnerships with community organizations that can allow that extension beyond just our temple walls. These are all the kinds of projects that individually the temple and the sponsoring temple and the individual would want to think through that could benefit the temple and church or the national committees, for example. And with that, we're asking a small portion of the cost for the program to be borne by the temple or church. those are the parameters by which we're thinking about it. Alex, in the way in which you're going to talk about the curriculum, are you talking about the kind of time frame and schedule for the program itself? You're muted.
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that after running
Okay.
this, or I can start
Okay.
either.
All right. So anyway, that's kind of the essence of the program itself. I think it's a fabulous way for us to take those donations that came through the Dharma Forward campaign and invest them in a way that ensures the future and the future sustainability of our organization, of all of our, individual temples and churches, but for BC in as a total organization. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you, of knowing that you actually know people in your temples and churches, and you can be an advocate for getting those individuals to step forward and participate in this program. So I'm going to turn this back to Alex to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the kind of program we're thinking about bringing to these participants.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. And so like to kind of kick us off before I talk about um uh the kind of structure of the program, I thought it was really important to think about like, well, how do we start a conversation within the cohorts that we already create? And so I want to kind of at least give you a sample of like the beginning experience of what we talk about. And so for like just the next 20 minutes, really thinking about leadership and then what's your story and kind of some of the challenges that Steve talked about. Really excited to have you all here, and we always think it's a gift to have the presence of individuals. Leap is very fortunate to work with leaders across multiple sectors, multiple communities, facing multiple challenges. And so just thinking about, your presence here and the ability to have this conversation today. Then also thinking about this is a great opportunity to kind of like dive into the first part of the conversation. Many of you as leaders of the different organizations and communities that you work with, right? Get an opportunity to kind of share and build with each other, which we'll do a little bit of today. And then honestly, like one of the biggest strengths of LEAP programs, especially when we're doing it in cohorts, is that this sense of camaraderie, confidentiality, and trust that forms with groups that work over a specific time period is always evident in the notes that we get from participants that say, like I got to be more vulnerable in this space than I've ever been in any other space. I'm so happy I have a resource and a cohort that I can reach out to for support. And so often we begin with these agreements that this is what we strive. And so when we think about like the first part, even before we dive into a conversation of leadership, we really think about like, well, what are the factors that shape the way we see the world, the way we see leadership? What has been poured into us and is influencing us in the way that we interact with others? And so we normally break it down into like thinking about how we affirm those experiences, name them, and being comfortable with who we are in a given moment, both in our imperfect nature, but also in the things that we strive for. The second part of the conversation is really around like how do we identify the values that we hold so that we can work more transparently with others around us? And then how do we, when we have that firm foundation, really bridge and represent our communities in order to finally serve others, right? And so today, like, one of the things that Steve has kind of tasked with us as a conversation is really thinking about like how culture, right, and the way we were raised really impacts like our sense of belonging or the sense of belonging of others. And we start our programs with this quote that culture is a mold in which we're all cast, and it controls our daily lives in many unexpected ways, unsuspecting ways. And that culture hides more than it reveals. And strangely enough, what it hides most effectively from its own participants. And so we set this as a stage for us to unearth, right, and really name some of the questions that we have, the influences and the impact that it's having in our daily lives. So, kind of fast tracking a little bit more of the conversation, what I want you to think about really is what were some of the early messages in your involvement? What were you told or observed about leadership in the BCA, right? And this is probably something that you picked up right when you started being involved or got introduced or being in space and community with. And so, what were some of those things that were shared with you about leadership specifically? And then also, too, how did you see those messages, beliefs? Did you see those demonstrated? What did people do around you to kind of model that early messaging, right? And then also, what did you take away from it? So, what I want you to do is really think about like what were some of the early things that you were told? And then also too, like what are some of the behaviors that you observe from people when it comes to leadership? So what you were told and what you observed about other people's behaviors. So I'm going to send you out into a small group conversation for just a moment. It'll be random. There will be about 6 minutes with a 30-second countdown. So there'll be a lot of rooms with two. We'll have one group of three, and so I will also just give me about 30 seconds. So just in case people are hopping in and out, that I have an opportunity to move folks into rooms so that they can make sure that they have a fruitful conversation. Let me see. And so again, 6 minutes. If you don't know each other, quick introduction of yourself. If you do know each other, great salutations and reconnecting. And then when we come back, we'll just talk a little bit briefly about some of the things that we've heard, right, as it relates to these conversations. So, any
So,
questions at the moment?
Alex, did you need me to set up breakout rooms?
Nope, I already got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay, great. And
Yes.
could you put the conversation prompt in the chat?
Yes. Give me 1 second. What is this? All right. And in the chat, give me 2 seconds. Uh, okay. Okay. So I'll put that in there. And behaviors. And thanks, Linda, for also putting that in there. Okay. So quick 6 minutes. So you'll be in most likely groups of two or potentially three. All right. So we will see you in just a moment. I think everybody's slowly trickling into their rooms here. Um, Let me see. Add a room.
How many rooms did you set up? It looks like two of the rooms don't have anybody. Is that,
Yeah, people are kind of dropping in and out. So
got it. It looks
Okay,
like there's
so I will join rooms. Well, that's Shar. I don't want to go talk to
yeah,
Shar.
I think Sheila is supposed to be in that one. So
there's
just
someone named Katie and Cynthia, looks like have not been assigned to a room.
I'm assigning them to room 9.
Okay.
All right. So Katie and Cynthia, both of your rooms have been assigned. So you
Looks
should see
looks like Marissa's still here too.
yeah, we didn't you're a
Marissa's the
host.
host.
So
Oh,
So
all of you all didn't get assigned if you weren't hosts.
I'm gonna move Shar to 6.
Well, Sheila just joined.
Oh, she just joined Shar. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the only one that doesn't have is Cynthia in room 9. Looks like Katie hasn't moved over yet.
So
So
I'll
Steve,
go
yeah, could you
join.
go to 9?
okay.
Yeah. How do I don't see my name. Oh, I
You
do.
just
I
have to
see.
click on breakouts and then join room 9 since you're a co-host. Oh, I can assign you.
I
Here you go.
just assigned him.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
perfect.
assign me.
Marissa, did you want to go into a breakout room? I think even though you're the host, you could still go in.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm moderating this, so I'll be okay right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So everybody is in, and then I think Steve, were you able to see the
I can see, but I can't join.
Hmm,
Um,
weird. Yeah, because you're assigned to room 9.
Yes, I see that. Let me
Hmm.
go and
maybe Linda, you might
oh,
have to join.
I see, I got it. I got it. I'm
Okay.
doing
Okay.
it.
Okay. So everybody is in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just trying to cram it all in just a little bit.
No problem. Is there any, this is the only breakout exercise, I think, right? This
Yeah. We'll do a large group discussion for the
for the reflection.
yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking it's like, okay, maybe if there was anything else, I'll just prepare whatever the, prompt is in for the chat. So
No, we'll just be outside because I think I don't have time to send them
yeah.
out into another group. So
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, so this session ends at 1:55, and we also need some time for Q&A at
Q&A.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just have to be mindful of that.
Okay.
Yes. This will be our fastest run.
Thank you. How are you both doing?
Doing great, doing great.
Wonderful.
So is this how many days of the meeting for the National Council meeting?
So it'll be Friday and Saturday.
Oh, okay. So you met yesterday and then you're meeting today too.
No, the meetings will actually take place next week in person in the Seattle area.
Oh, so this is just um virtual today then.
Correct. This is all of like the workshop sessions, and then next week will be the actual meeting portion where they are going to talk about all of the fun reports and things.
Oh, okay. I thought this was part of you know
It is part of the whole council sessions. We're just
oh,
doing this all as virtual because this one is open, completely open to the public.
okay.
The sessions next week are for registered delegates.
Oh, I see. What happens to you? You back?
I went to my breakout and then Cynthia's like, there's no camera. She's on mute. I tried to get her to unmute and there was
Oh,
nothing. So I came back here.
oh, that's weird. Okay.
Okay. Well, we got about a minute and 30 left, so everybody
Okay.
should be back. Just
I think that part of the goal after looking at who's here, and we didn't launch the poll, I realized that,
Yes.
Marissa.
Yeah, yeah.
We can not have to launch the poll. But I think looking at who's here, the message really is to take this session, this program back to their temples and churches and be advocates for generating individuals who they want to push forward. So like your comment, Linda, you said about using this as a way to take somebody who's kind of on the cusp of wanting to be part of leadership but hasn't yet taken the plunge, but using this program to jettison them into a more spotlit position in the temple.
Yeah, because I think some people need some
They need
encouragement
that push,
or a push. Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, when I talked to my sister about it, she's like, no. But she's very active and she's in certain leadership roles. I'm like, why not? So
right? Right. And so much of it is this sentiment that, what is BCA doing, right? So
all right. I know folks are starting to join us again. All right, and everybody should be joining us in just a moment. So I know it's a really quick conversation, but hopefully you got to reconnect with someone that you haven't met or seen in a long time, or got to meet somebody new. But I'm really interested in, and maybe just two volunteers, if we can, or just were there any connecting themes when you both were sharing your stories with each other? What were just some connecting themes that you heard that kind of like between both what you experienced. And again, you can just take yourself off mute and just share with us quickly. And also provide your name so I can find you in the Zoom gallery.
I'll go ahead if no one else was. I would my name is Rosalie May.
Rosalie.
Um,
Yes.
I would say that a common theme is that the further you get from California, the less the BCA is a big part of your temple experience.
Mm,
I
yeah.
see lots of nods there, particularly from Tri-State Allison, and I don't know. And of course Cynthia out in Chicago.
Yeah. Who else? No, but thank you so much for sharing. Anybody similar or even something different?
This is Gary Hongo with Slow Buddhist Church.
Yeah,
Okay,
Gary.
regarding the first question, my comment was that as far as leadership within BCA, you find that those who have been in BCA for many years, a long time, are the most knowledgeable. I think being an effective leader is how you carry forward your knowledge and put that into action.
Yeah.
So I think people have different ways of becoming a good leader.
Yes, definitely. Thanks so much, Gary. And I'm sure all of you will have something that's maybe similar or just definitely connected along these themes. And when we think about like our experiences with leadership, what we find about leadership, even now through our programs at Leap, right? And this was created by Sally Huang Neeson. It's been a little bit updated, like by our team based on what we hear in conversations of our programs. It was originally called the Asian Balancing Cultures Model, the ABC model. But what we've also just found is that, while not exclusive to our communities, these are just the values that often show up, right? That in conversation. And so kind of even connected to what Gary is sharing about like, about leadership and how things are going to also evolve. We've also seen how values and value expression have also evolved. So as you all are taking this in, thinking about leadership and the values that you might resonate with the most, a value we consider is typically neutral, but depending on the context, the people involved, or the situation and time, we find that there are reasons for a particular value to be very affirming in someone's leadership. And then on the other side, also hindering or presenting challenges, right? And so when you think about your leadership or like the leadership evolution of those who are coming work that you're working with, are there ones that you're seeing? And oftentimes we ask our participants just like what stands out, and is it because you're seeing that value being more of an affirmation to you, or is it being more of a hindrance? So again, I want to just take two maybe volunteers, hopefully someone we haven't heard from yet, just to say, like, what is resonating about this chart or what's standing out to you?
Oh, hello.
Sharon, yes.
I can what resonates with me is something I discussed. I was partners with Reverend Harry, and the number two,
Mm-hmm.
respect for authority and elders, is something that I feel like our temple is very, holds very highly, and so we haven't, it because we highly respect and love those who founded our temple, the traditions that were instituted, you know, 100 years ago and or, by some of the founders, um, yeah, we're reluctant to, go away from that
Mm,
generally. Yeah.
yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Sharon, for adding that. Anybody else? Just maybe one more, just something that you're connecting with.
One that really resonates with me is the humbleness and humility. Because one of the biggest things that attracted us to the temple after the first couple times we attended, not boastful of achievement, shares credit where due, appears down to earth. To this day, I don't know what most of the people in our sangha do for a living because none of us
Mm,
think it's important. It's not who we are. And yet it seems like every other organization that I've been a part of the first 3 minutes of conversation, well, what do you do? And
mm.
here the conversation is so different. It's more, how is your path? It's just so different. It's more present. It's more personal. It's more meaningful.
Yeah. Ah, thanks, JW, and thanks, Sharon, for both sharing this and how we connected to our leaders, because we often ask like people who participate in our programs when we do go through this chart is really just like, where do you see yourself, right? Where do you see yourself being affirmed and where do you see yourself being hindered? And through the rest of the journey of like a cohort, we oftentimes try to what Linda had shared earlier, right? Like we're uncapping talent. You don't have to change your values, right? But what we try to offer is a wider range of toolkits to be able to express your values more effectively, especially when working across difference, right? Across conflict, across change. And so this is always a great starting point because I think a lot of our participants always like to refer back to this chart to kind of give themselves some sort of barometer, right? Of like where they are, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. And so we often like continue on with reflections, right? Like a lot of leaders, especially leaders who are hesitant, there's a particular pain point, like whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's maybe like a values or maybe, it might be relationships that get in the way of them feeling like they can be effective leaders. And so we often ask, what's a particular pain point in your leadership journey? Like, what has felt like it's made that journey like difficult to trudge through? And then we kind of unpack like just some of the internal beliefs, the past experiences, the way we act, right? And to kind of just get a sense of like what is it that we've experienced and what can we control? And so from there, really, again, to what Linda showed, we really talk about the self a lot in the beginning because we also say that, like, once we've calibrated our compass, that really sets the tone for how we interact with others, how we impact change or sustain, right, the work that we're doing. And so, when we think of these things, it's really great to hear from other people what their pain points are. It's very validating. So again, this is just a deeper conversation that we get into. And so I want to just kind of go through quickly in managing perspectives. We also talk about what happens externally. How do we articulate our values better? How do we express compassion? Especially when people do things differently. And then, like, what are some ways we can adapt our behaviors, forms of speech? And how do we make the implicit explicit, right? Those assumptions that we have with each other. And so, just a quick roadmap of like how a particular program, and this is kind of very broad, but it's like we root our leadership in ourselves and our experiences and what we hold true. Then we think about how that interacts with the people around us. And then once we have this idea where relationships are important and we've got ourselves centered, then we can be strategic about the work that we do. And then we think about the long-term legacy and impact we want to have. So, again, these are just the broad general markers that kind of express themselves throughout the variety of programs that we have. So I'm going to pause there because typically something like this, Steve knows, this is like a 2 hour workshop or even 2.5 at times because there's a lot of great things to share, but I do want to leave room for questions. And I know we've got about 5 minutes, so trying to pack up as much as we can.
So with Alex, if there's questions, please put them in the chat, or you can raise your digital hand. Please, we're open to discussion. Um, while you're deciding if you have questions or comments, I'm going to put in chat more description of the program itself. Please take that document and use it to take back to your temples and churches, to be an advocate for this program. It's important for all of you to be that voice that can generate that the level of interest from individuals within your temples and churches. As Linda put in the chat, for example, sometimes people need that extra little push. They're kind of hesitant to take that next step. This program will allow you to offer them that little push that can lead them into a much more active role in taking leadership in your temples and church. Joe, please.
Alex, I've really enjoyed what I've heard so far, especially from Steve talking about the changing demographics of our temples. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit more about the vision up here, this idea of diverse leaders shaping communities to benefit all. So talk to us a little more about how training Asian and Pacific Islanders for leadership roles can benefit our entire sanghas, our entire temples. And I think
Yeah.
I know you're on the right track. I just want to hear a little bit more about it from your point of view.
Yeah, so I think what Leap really leans on is like as we think about the history of Asian Pacific Islanders in this country to create a sense of belonging, a sense of safety, a sense of achievement, we've really kind of like built our leadership definitions and like focus around that experience of like navigating challenges and coming together. And so when we say for the benefit of all, yes, we're using Asian Pacific Islander stories, one, because we know those stories aren't often shared, right? They're often kind of either forgotten or masked or even kind of misconstrued through like kind of mass media. One, it's an education about a community, but it's also a way of like expanding the way we see the world, right? And we often get a lot of allies like joining our programs, and it's really always great to see how people connect with certain things and how certain things differ. But then ultimately, like what I think our program really does is it humanizes the different experiences in a way because I think that's been our main goal as a community is to break this monolithic view of like a singular narrative of our community and allow people to see the difference, the different ethnic backgrounds, the different experiences. And I think that that's just been the power. Like this oneness in difference is kind of like this kind of ongoing theme, I think, in our programs.
Thank you very much.
Can I add just something a little bit different to what Alex just also said in answer to your question, Joe? I think part of the idea of the vision is that our mission feeds into the vision of LEAP. So the idea that um, there should be diverse leaders, leaders from all across, all different, from different experiences, different communities, different points of view. And from our perspective, what we're trying to do is to ensure and to help Asian and Pacific Islanders become part of that kind of broader group of diverse leaders who are shaping communities for the benefit of all. I think for the purpose of this particular program, what I understand is that it's not limited to just the Japanese Americans or, Asian Americans or Pacific Islanders. This is meant to be a program that is across, again, all communities, part of the Sangha at, your individual temples and churches. I think one of the conversations that we had with Steve was the idea that because the roots of the this branch of Buddhism, the Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, is rooted in Japanese culture. Um, with the increasing diversity within churches, I think some of the navigation of both change and also leadership requires, I think, some of this understanding. So the program is going to play in some ways kind of a nuanced role. So there's going to be I think there's going to be a benefit for those who are Asian and Pacific Islanders to really think about what is their opportunities for leadership within their temples and churches, and then eventually rolling up into, you know, the different levels within the entirety of the BCA, including, you know, the different regions and districts and things like that. For those that are not, I'm going to use more broadly Asian or Pacific Islanders, I think this is an opportunity for your temple members who are interested in taking on leadership roles a chance to understand um, a little bit of this kind of cultural context, and then to understand how to better navigate within this that honors that cultural context, which is the roots, but also understanding that, you know, change is happening, and, you know, what are the ways in which effective change can be made that allows that honoring of the cultural roots, but also understanding that change does need to happen for sustainability. If that makes sense. That was a little long-winded.
No, no,
No,
absolutely. Thank you.
that's exactly kind of my vision of why this is so important for us at this point in time in the history of BCA. We are at the cusp of shifting from a JA centric Sangha into a really diverse Buddhist organization that can make huge impacts to American society. And we need to be able to we need to invite and encourage diverse individuals to participate in our temples and churches, and not be so feeling that they've hit a brick wall when they don't understand why things don't change in the way they want things to change. But it's that nuanced understanding of what is this Japanese kind of cultural undertones that exist in our temples and churches. Because without that understanding, they come in and they expect certain outcomes based on their energy that they bring, and it's not going to happen. So anyway, this is so why it's so important at this point in time in our history to really put together a formal leadership development program like this that is customized for our needs and for our approach to how we want to think about going forward. So thank you for the question, Joe.
Yeah, that's great.
Cami.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was partnered actually with Cindy Alm from Honolulu in the breakout session, and I wanted to welcome her and acknowledge to you, Steve, that she's one of the co-chairs for lay leadership development in Hawaii, and we had an interesting conversation.
Thank you for saying that, and I will need to follow up with.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yes, Cindy.
appreciate that,
Great.
and that's why I joined in. And you came in from the Choral Fest that we had recently
Great.
here in Honolulu.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us from Hawaii. I have put that more description of the program as we're thinking about it. The goal is to have a 3-day session in LA and Little Tokyo at LEAP's offices to have all the people of the cohort come together, then to spend the next several months working independently, but also coming together in virtual modes that the cohort can come together and process some of the learnings that have happened in that 3-day weekend. And after 4 to 5 months, depending on how it all pans out, that we would come together again at the Jodo Shinshu Center in Berkeley, bring back everybody together, and culminate the program in a way that grounds itself in the BCA kind of setting of the Jodo Shinshu Center. So it's a really great way to both, have individuals both share in this experience, but also to gather ultimately in the end within the Jodo Shinshu Center and experience that piece of what it is to be part of the BCA. So I was going to, my last slide here that I'm going to share is my QR code that I want you all to click on. It'll take you to the Google form that is an expression of interest, and I want you to share that widely because we want to have lots of folks who you can put forward and begin to develop a list of individuals who we want to vet and then ask to participate in this program. Ultimately, what I'm asking from the Dharma Forward campaign is anywhere from, I think Shar, I said $60,000. It depends on the number of folks, but we can begin to talk more specifically about the numbers. Another 15 to 20,000 from the Bloomquist Education Fund, and the balance from the local temples and churches who are sponsoring the individual. So for the individual, there's no cost; it's just their time. And we still need to deal with travel costs and how we're going to provide that for the individual to get to LA and get to Berkeley. So everything's there's not final details of all that, but that's the essence of what the program's about. And I think it's going to be really wonderful to establish this. This is going. I see this first cohort as a barometer for what we can evaluate success around, and then based on that, we can look at the timing of how often these kinds of cohorts we'll do this leadership training and see how it rolls out over time. So with that, if there's any questions, please raise your digital hand. If there's things you'd like to comment on, please put them in chat. We're saving the chat. And this session is recorded, so you can tell others in your temples and churches to watch the recording of this, and hopefully they will have the opportunity to click on that QR code too, and individually submit their expression of interest in the program. So with that, we've gone 6 minutes over. We have now 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes to our next session. If you're staying in this track of Buddhist of education and skills development, I believe the next session is around, Marissa, tell me.
It's at 2:15 and it'll be the value of Dharma school to your local temple and church.
So it's an FDSTL workshop, and it is. I saw Mas Nishimura sign in here. Mas is one of the presenters going forward. Oh, and Darlene too. Darlene, who is the FDSTL president, has just joined at the end of ours. They're getting ready for their next session, starting at 2:15. So thank you all for your attendance. Thank you, Linda Akutagawa and Alex Sena, for joining us from LEAP. And I really do look forward to collaborating with you all to bring this program to BCA and BCA leaders. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Steve, for a wonderful presentation.